Vows and non-resistance. Both of those topics are misinterpreted and misunderstood, and we will try to find the correct interpretation. Let me remind you that Yeshua didn't abolish the law, but on the contrary, he intensified it. This is what we found previously. Also, we found that the teacher focuses our attention on motivation and thoughts. And in addition to that, we found that we should think about ourselves, not trying to justify us, but thinking about punishment. And now, let's talk about two important topics. Number one, our first topic is oaths. Again, you have heard, says Yeshua, that it was said to those of old, "You shall not swear falsely, but shall carry out your oaths to Adonai." Looks like we agree with that, and looks like this statement is in agreement with the Torah of Moses. But I tell you, continues Yeshua, do not swear at all, not by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. But I tell you, do not swear at all. It's a difficult statement. How should we practice it? I would like to share with you that some time ago we had to apply for traveling documents, and our kids were supposed to get their passports. I remember when we arrived to the government office, we were asked, "Please raise your hands and repeat, 'I swear that these are my children.'" Was it necessary to say, "Oh, no. Yeshua, Jesus said, 'Do not swear at all. I will not confirm these are my kids.'" Yeshua continues. Let's read the next slide. "And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make a single hair white or black, but let your word yes be yes, and your no, no. Anything more than this is from the evil one. Let your word yes be yes, and let your no, no." How do these words relate to oaths? It's another question. Okay, I may understand. Yeshua says, do not do this at all. But why does he say yes, yes and no, no? I'll take a risk to assume that the words of Yeshua are not about situations when the government requires to confirm that I am not lying. First, scholars who believe that Yeshua attacks or corrects the Torah believe that this pericope represents a paraphrase. And indeed, we do not have a quotation here. It's not an exact quotation. It's something about it's something about the Torah of Moses. However, we cannot find this in the Torah itself. But the key word is heard. It was not written again. It was told. This explains a lot. And another important phrase is yes. What is this? Yes be yes, and your no, no. How does this relate to the oath? Many Jews viewed actually swearing by heaven, earth, or Jerusalem, or one's head as less binding than swearing by God. And this is the explanation. Look at this. This is something from the Mishnah. I impose an oath on you. I command you. I bind you. Law. These are liable. By heaven and earth. Law. These are exempt. By the name of Aleph Dalet or Adonai or Yud He, by the Almighty, by hosts, by Him who is merciful and gracious, by Him who is long-suffering and abundant in mercy, or by any other euphemism, law. These are liable. Look at this. So you have some type of oaths which are serious and for example, by heaven and earth law, these are exempt. Interestingly enough, you may swear, but at the same time you will not be responsible for your words. This is the problem. As it can be observed, rabbis differentiated between liable and exempt oaths. However, the teacher says, do not swear at all, not by heaven, for it is the throne of God. By heaven and earth, says Mishnah. By heaven and earth, lo, these are exempt. But Yeshua says, no, even if you swear by heaven, you are still liable. This means that if you swear by the heavens, having in mind to cheat and to avoid liability, in the future, this will not work. Matthew chapter 23 verse 22 says, and whoever swears by heaven swears both by the throne of God and by him who sits on it. Now it is clear what Yeshua means saying, yes, be yes, and your no, be no. What does it mean? It means when you say just yes, it should be taken as a solemn oath. So he doesn't say, I will take a risk, to interpret his words, but looks like he doesn't say, do not do this at all. Yeshua says, if you say yes, you promise already. You swear already when you say yes. So let's keep practicing that. Another interesting question is eye for eye. You have heard, says Yeshua, that it was said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. Today we know that the law measure for measure did not assume taking someone's eyes or teeth. The law rather determined compensation than punishment. I would like to read you something from the Hammurabi's Code. It says in chapter 21, if a man breaks into a house, they shall kill him and hang him in front of that very breach. How do you like that? So someone decides to steal something. And let's say this person made a hole in the house and stole $100. What does Hammurabi say? He says, they shall kill him and hang him in front of that very breach. Well, compare now with Mosaic eye for eye. Moses commands how this compensation should look like. One of the scholars who interpreted Hammurabi's law suggested that it is possible to translate this text which I just read for you, and they shall hang or pierce him. Driver and Miles propose that if this means that the man's body is pierced, it must be supposed that a stake is driven through his corpse, which is left exposed at the breach that he has made in the wall of the house. The punishment then reflects, they say, the crime, as he has made a hole in the wall of the house, so a hole is made in his body. And now I have a question. How does the owner of the house benefit from this situation? Listen, can you imagine someone decided to steal $100 from your home? And then police comes and kills this person. And this person is pierced and left near your house. So as you can see, the idea of Hammurabi is to intimidate, whereas Mosaic idea is to compensate. What does Yeshua say? You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And then he continues, but I tell you, do not resist an evildoer, but whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn to him also the other. And the one wanting to sue you and to take your shirt, let him also have your coat. Why would someone slap on the right cheek, typically the left cheek will be attacked. If someone uses a right hand, it will be the left cheek which will be injured. Why do you have the right cheek? Because if someone wanted to offend or to humiliate another person, this person would use the other side of the right hand, and in this case, the right cheek would receive a slap. Yeshua says, when you got offended, do not seek compensation. Even if someone is attempting to leave you naked. Why? One wanting to sue you, and the person wants to take a short, let him also have your coat. Basically, people had two articles of clothes at that time, the shirt and the coat. And if both of them are taken away, it means you are naked. But Yeshua says it's perfectly fine. Do not seek for the compensation, or do not try to get reimbursed. I will do this for you. Whoever forces you to go 1 mile, go with him too. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. The Roman officers would sometimes require from people to construct roads, fortifications, and public buildings, and it would not be paid. To go 1 mile means to participate in this work. Yeshua says, okay, go even 2 miles. Participate in the work which you are forced to do. Give. Do not turn away. In addition to refusing to get reimbursed or compensated, the true disciples should be proactive. Give. Share. As you can see, when you compare the Mosaic law with the Code of Hammurabi, the Mosaic law is much more just and righteous. Obviously, Moses never commanded to kill people for stealing. Moses gave a commandment to punish measure for measure. However, Yeshua goes even further. He says, be proactive, share, love your enemies, love your enemies, love your enemies. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Hate your enemy is not a biblical quotation. Again, it is an interpretation widely accepted in the Jewish society of the first century. And this makes sense because naturally we do not love our enemies. But there is something better. There is something better than hating enemies. And Yeshua says, love your enemies. Is this easy to do? Here is reformedjudaism.org. And this is the article. Love your enemy? No way! Treat him fairly. Way! And by the way, this is what I naturally want to do. Some time ago I read an article written by an Orthodox rabbi. He said, no way we cannot love our enemies. And the point that Jesus teaches to love the enemy proves that he is a false prophet. I was amazed by this article. We cannot love our enemies. We should treat them fairly. Many rabbis today, they refuse this idea. However, Yeshua says, love your enemy, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. This is the purpose. This is how our righteousness can exceed the one of the Pharisees. We talked about that earlier, and now we see that our righteousness can exceed the Pharisaic righteousness when we love our enemies, when we share, when people ask and we give, and when we do not seek compensation or reimbursement. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Even the tax collectors do the same, don't they? And if you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than anyone else. Even the pagans do that, don't they? And then Yeshua finishes, therefore be perfect, just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Perfection can be achieved, says Yeshua, and it is achievable. Follow the commandments of the teacher and you will achieve that. Perfection is not an expensive car or amazing house and luxurious lifestyle. Perfection is loving your enemies and sharing your piece of bread. Perfection is something which can dwell in your heart, and this is what Yeshua commands us to do. Here is our practice. Take your words seriously. If you say, yes, I will do it, then this means that you make this promise as if you took an oath. And instead of saying, oh yes, I will pray for you, think about that. If you said, I will pray for you, you are supposed to accomplish that. If you promised something, if you said, yes, this is your oath, this is what Yeshua essentially says. Be proactive, doing good things. Instead of waiting for compensation, give. Instead of hating, love. Love the enemies. These things sound difficult. However, Yeshua demonstrated how to love. He lived according to these words. He will give power to us, and He will give us strength to become perfect.